Okay, so you're going to see some concrete cock-ups, but look, this is where we are today as of March 2023, so you know that it works out okay in the end. Now, this channel, Alex Builds, is all about me building a barn, but I'm a DIYer, right? So everything you see today, I was doing for the first time, basically learning it off YouTube. So you're going to see some major cock-ups. So feel free to leave me a comment, but don't worry, I know I'm a cowboy. That's the whole point. Anyway, we're going to start at the beginning, getting a bit of prep. You're going to see it go wrong. You're going to see how I fix it. And then at the end, we'll have a second attempt at the concrete when we do the slab, which goes pretty well. If you're thinking of doing anything like this, I hope you find it useful. But if you want to see the whole progress in more detail and keep up to date, then please subscribe to the channel and give us a like. Thanks for watching. Okay, so let me get you up to date. This is what we are building. It's a kind of barn workshop, but the plot in my front garden is on a massive slope. There's the shape we're going to be digging out. Now this is the driveway up to the house, the highest point, and it slopes down to the first level. Then it slopes down even further with a further 1 meter drop down to a footpath. So that's 2 meters in total. Right, let's go to part one where we do a bit of simple preparation.
This over. Okay, sits quite nicely. Okay, so there is concrete chute number one. Now, there are potentially gaps that might come from the flex in the wood. But when we install it, I'm probably going to bank it up with a bit of soil. Okay, here's this really rotten beam here, but not rotten in the middle. Okay. Okay, it's a chute. It feels really sturdy. If I had a ball, I'd roll it down, but I don't. But I have a couple of pebbles. 2 attempts at this. One. Knew that would happen. Come on. In the trench.
So first of all, the concrete man is wetting the chute. I mean, the first concern I'd have is, would the chute actually survive or even stay in place? Quite a nervy moment as it goes, and as you can see, the chute is standing up quite well, missing a little bit. Now here you see it going in, same sequence but from the drone above. Now let me start to highlight what the problem is. We're speeding it up here. Where it's pouring in, look how it's flowing. It's trying to go down the screen and across. You can see me raking it across. And already it's too deep, the point it's going in, and it's stopped flowing down to the bottom of your screen. Now what's happened here is that the concrete guy has then stopped and he's proposed that we get it a bit runnier. Now unfortunately the problem here is that it starts bursting slightly out the side of the chute. That's not a major problem, but it certainly improves the mix. But the problem we've got is that we've now got quite a firm mix sitting at the point where we first flowed it, blocking it up, and now we've got a runnier mix which is working its way around, but it's sitting on top of the blockage. Now look at where it should be flowing down. See me trying to rate that there? It's not getting any further, and that stuff is pretty stiff. So this is the beginning of the big problem that I was facing.
Well, nothing's ever easy. Basically, it wasn't runny enough the first pour. Now then he did adjust it. So we're sitting up far too high here. I've got to be quick here. I've got to do something about this, because I can't really get to the same depth down the back end unless I overfill, which I might have to do. This is where it's stuck. I'm going to have to rake this through on this side. Now on the other it's fine. It's merely the angle he flowed it in at. Here's where it's made it round. It's fine to there. Ooh, bit of a collapse there on the side. So it's made it round here as well. But clearly we've got a massive downslope on this. It's not flowed properly. Big problem. So we've got to get off the film now and sort this out one way or another. Nothing's ever easy, is it?
Now I'm just going to overdub on this one and just explain what happened next, because it was such a panic I couldn't even put the camera on. So I spent about the next hour scraping the concrete around as best as I could, and also the next concrete load was due within the hour. So it was pretty breathless and pretty panicky. What I did do was I moved the concrete chute and I aimed it at the corner where it got stuck. We'll see that in a minute. But really my job here was just to get prepared, scrape as much round as I could in preparation for the second load, which was coming pretty soon. We'll jump to that sequence next.
Oh, well, how things change quickly. Second lot spin, I went for another 6. So that means I've had 13.5, not 12.5. But actually it's worked out well. So we've ended up overfilling at this end. I don't care, that's not a problem. It's just a bit of waste. And as you can see up there, we are kind of close to the top. So that's exactly what I expected. Now I've just got to move this around a little bit more. And particularly on the back, the kind of the meeting point, if you like, down here. I've definitely got a bit of work just to pull this one down here, but actually compared to where I was before, I've even taken out that step. I don't think I need it. So if I can just move this stuff around and get it in, I have to say I'm fairly confident we're okay. So, bit of work to do. Well, it's 5 o'clock. Let's put in the best part of an afternoon's work, and we have concrete in. I have definitely got a problem with levels, I know that. I'd have to calculate the differential, but you know, the highest point of the concrete and the lowest, I'm afraid to say I think we've got as much as 20 centimetres, which is not cool. But I just cannot shift the concrete around with the amount of time, or frankly energy I've got. I've got blisters everywhere and I've had enough. So I've got it level enough that I can put block on it. We'll do some measurements, we'll have a look. It might be that we have to cut some blocks to work our way up. It might be that we'll work with the undulation and correct it with a slab. Not sure at this point, but I think I've taken it as far as I can today. The latest problem that I've created is uneven concrete. So the concrete's poured in the trench, but rather than going straight across, as it comes around, it's lower. So higher, comes around, goes lower. Which means if I was to just build on top of that, I'd have a sloping barn or workshop. I'm not too cross on myself on this one because, well, when I had the footings cock up and I dug that out wrong, it's just entirely my fault. It was completely preventable. But I'm still not sure what the answer was to getting the concrete completely level. I could have done better if I'd known what I'd known now. But other than having loads of labour to pull it around, I'll have to look into that. I'm not quite sure. So I'm happy enough to sort this one out. Look, here's how I'm going to solve it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some measurements. Got some chalk, 99p. I'm going to need quite a bit of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the lowest point of the trench. I know where that is. It's the far side, furthest away from where the concrete chute was. That makes sense. It just didn't flow around evenly. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of these trench blocks, Kelcon blocks here. That's fine. And one of these. Now, that gives me a height of, well, as it is here, 395 mil, but about 405 with a 10 mil mortar joint. The approximate difference in height between the very top and the very bottom, I haven't got it completely accurately, but it's between 32 and 36 centimeters, 320 to 360 mil. So what I'm going to do is at the very bottom I'm going to have two of these, but as I go round I'm going to take the height by looking at the levels as I go. So by the time I've come up to about, let's say, 100 mil, as it slopes up, I'm 100 mil up that slope, well, what I'll do is I'll take this block here, and I will cut the block across there. Hope you can see that line. So we'll take that off. So that will be on the ground. And if I keep doing this bit by bit, we're going to end up where we want. Now, as I continue to go around, like you've seen here, well, why would I cut 10 centimeters off that and leave that? Well, I won't. I just won't have the block at all. And by the time I get round to the highest part, we should only really have a difference of about, probably about, still my guess is about 80 mil. So all we'll have at that point is, we'll be laying a bit of block, just what you see above the surface there. And when we're about 10 centimeters, 100 mil above, it'll just be one of these. So what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to limit the amount of cuts I've got to make. Now, I've already tried cutting through one of the dense blocks and it was fine. These should be a little bit easier, but I'm going to test that now to see, can I get through it with my latest purchase, the circular grinder saw, which you can see in the background. Right, I'm going to have to get down super low for this one because I want to show you how I'm going to measure the heights. Now, where my chalk is here, just in shot I think, but I can show you it as I go further back this way. So this is my kind of ground zero. This is like the lowest point. I've already worked that out using the laser, okay? Now this string, which is super taut, so there shouldn't really be any sag in it, is sitting one block up at each end, which is behind the camera and down that end. So it's sitting flush on top of a block, which means if this level here was the same height as back there, then it would be shade under 100 mil. But it's not 100 mil. So at this point here, it is 170 mil. So over this length run here, we've got 70 millimeters drop. That's what we've basically got to make up for. So at this point here, we're going to have a full big trench block and a full breeze block sitting on top, which if you remember would take it up to 400 mil, slightly over 405 with the joint. So as I go this way, you've noticed, or you should notice, there is a dot. Now the dot here is the width of each block. So I'm going to go round and I'm going to measure the height at each of these, and then that's going to tell me how much I have to cut each block by as I go round. ingenious, if I may say so myself. Sorry my head's got cut off there. 15 and a half, 14 and a half, still 14 and a half. Twelve and a half, 12 and a half. I'm back. So I'm going to bring this up here. Let's get a bit further in. Right. So what I've got my dimensions here, it says at 0, the first one, I know you can't read this, I'm 170 mil, but by the time I get to the end, I'm 100 mil, which is right. Somewhere in the middle, it's 12, 125 mil. So that gives you the slope. So that gives me the amount that I've got to cut off. This is how it works. This block here is now 70 millimeters, 7 centimeters shorter than the regular block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it under the string here. At the other end, which is at the same level as this, I have tested this, I think, I'll put another block the same as this. I'll take another of these P13s, in fact it's already down there, and I'll put the string over the top. The theory is when I go back to what I'm calling my ground zero, the lowest point, a whole block should fit nicely underneath it. Let's see. Let me show you. It's actually going to be that way round like that. So this is a full-size block. This is our ground zero. Well, what do you know? So that's probably going to go somewhere like that. That's great. Now, there'll actually be another P13. Truth be told, I've used it at the other end. So let's put a gap in. So imagine the block here. So this is P12. This is 6.5 mil. Here's another.
We've jumped forward a bit here. You can see that these cut blocks have all been laid on the back wall, and there is now a course of trench block on top of that. The cut ones I've done side on to give it more strength, and the second course you see is how the trench block is actually going to be oriented when we come to build it up from there. I decided not to go all the way around the site with the cut blocks at first. I wanted to just see how this came out, so I did do that section by section coming up in the next video. It looks a bit rough, a bit wonky on that bottom course, but the point is it's now dealt with the offset in the concrete. It was successful, and as of course we go up course by course, gave us the opportunity to improve matters. A lot of hard work, very satisfying.
Looking back at the house, it's really coming on at pace now. Starting to get a good feeling about it.
As well as having a concrete pump, another change from last time. That's right, it's my old mate Gareth back.
They just want a couple of quick jobs. Right. Flipping warm. Yeah. Good to see you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're all ready to go now. The concrete pump guy, nice guy called Ian, by the way, he's just waiting. I made him a cuppa. And we're just waiting for the concrete. The concrete pump and the mixer actually came as a pair. Breedon do have a unit that supply them. I was going to do it individually. But of course, Ian, the concrete pump guy, turned up earlier to get himself set up. And here we are. Here is the mixer just pulling in the top right of the picture now. Okay, so we are all ready to go here. Somehow I managed to miss the moment where the concrete came out from this camera, but don't worry, I've got some fantastic drone footage. Bit of water coming out at first, and then you'll see the concrete start coming out behind it. Now this guy Ian absolutely knows what he's doing. But even so, I mean, it just made such light work of the whole job. Just flowing in, no problem at all, moving it around. You can see here that he's filling in that lip I was talking about. So this is actually sitting on top of the block work, albeit with the damp-proof membrane on top. You can actually see I've put a bit of wood across there just to keep that concrete in. So it means that we've kind of got a lip, a shelf of the slab. The slab is going over the block work at that point. Now at this point, Gareth and I are watching and getting ready to tamp it down, but obviously we needed a little bit more depth in it first. So as you can see, this is going in very, very nicely. The guy's pumping in, giving a bit of rake, and you can see it's smoothing out really well. However, when Alex Builds and concrete are involved, nothing's going to go entirely according to plan. And what's happened here is we haven't got enough concrete. You can see to the left we've run out. I thought I actually over-ordered by a cubic metre this time, and I actually even thought I'd use a bit of extra concrete to sort of go around the trench around the front of the block work for the facing stone. The reason why I got it under, I just think with all the undulations it was deeper in the middle than I thought it was, and I'm not sure if I actually took enough into account. You know, I was talking about that step, that lip, where I took the block work out, so that might have accounted for it as well. Anyway, not a major problem. What we decided to do, I mean, we couldn't scrape the concrete out from the garage end because it's got rebar within it, and I didn't want to. So we decided to get a bit of wood, which you can see us playing with here, and what we're going to do is we're going to embed that in, basically to create a small step, which will be fine. We'll screed that later on, and then scrape this area back, level it out, and we knew that we had enough concrete basically to do that. So just sawing a length of 2x4 here to fit in that gap. In terms of then installing it, it really was just a case of pushing it in and actually just giving it a bit of a stamp down. Problem is though, is that you can see, of course, it floats on the concrete, but that's nothing that a few spare trench blocks can't sort out. From then it was just a case of scraping that concrete back from the wood, which would ultimately then create a small step between the garage level and the workshop level, which I think, as I said, we will ultimately screed up. Final jobs now, just cutting another bit of 2x4 length just so we can tamp this section down. Didn't take too long actually to scrape all that concrete down, probably about 20 minutes in the end.
It'll be alright, it'll sink down. Yeah.
Now that's a slab. That could not have gone much better. I wish now I had got the concrete pump for when I did the trench. Not that it matters, but the concrete pump is the way forward. Just went down really easily and we tamped it down. Had to shift quite a bit in the end because it's a bit shallow. We undercooked it. Should have got 7 meters cubed, but I don't care. That's a real result. So we're out of the ground.
So there we have it then, that's the end of the video. So if I've got one bit of advice, it's just get a concrete pump. Not only does it reach the site a bit better, you don't need a chute and the sort of stuff I had to do, they just would have, squished it around and got it all level for you. At the very least, make sure you've got a far runnier mix. Well, as you've seen already, it does turn out okay, and these images you see here are from March 2023, and we're about to move on to the oak frame which surrounds that. So I'd love it if you join me on the channel. We're already on episode 20. We've got about another 1.5 years to go. So please subscribe to Alex Builds. And just to make your life super easy, look, here is the beginning, and I've included a link here to episode 1. Thanks for watching.